Hey there guys, it's me TheTacticalBrit, and something I get asked a lot about from you guys when you're watching my footage is how to win more engagements and win more gun battles when playing Battlefield 5. Now, there are some pretty basic things you can do, but there are some pretty complex things you can do as well. And in this week's Tactical Tuesday, I want to dive right on into that. So the first one for me is really about being unorthodox. This is something a lot of people don't really think about or don't really realize. You almost have to kind of picture your engagement with somebody in a gun battle as the engagements you have with other people. And we all know that when you're fighting somebody else, the more slippery they are, the more difficult they make it to hit them, the better they are at getting into cover, the more likely they are to kill you. And likewise, you'll notice in a lot of my footage, I rarely stand still. Even when I'm shooting, I'm usually moving left or right unless I've got the drop on somebody from distance. You know, it's really about that mobility. I tend to do things sometimes where I'll run towards an enemy whilst I'm shooting and sort of back away and try and use sort of effectively what I would call a running back cut. If you can imagine sort of a game of American football or NFL where a running back just does like a dirty cut to the left or right, or a wide receiver, or just any kind of like jab step in any given sport, you're kind of effectively doing the same thing there, but in Battlefield 5. You know, it's really about making those sharp and swift movements that players aren't really anticipating. And a lot of people seem to convince themselves that that is moving left and right while shooting, what we used to consider AD spam. And that just simply isn't the case anymore, especially since that has been more or less heavily nerfed since the patch. You know, getting people to avoid hitting you at central mass is really about those sharp movements and unorthodox styles of play. The next thing really is about understanding your weapon and allowing you to use it in that mobile environment. You know, a lot of people don't seem to use their guns in the kind of settings and situations that will maximize their potential of winning. So say for example, here today I'm using an MP.14. I know that this has some of the tightest hipfire spread of some of the best weapons in Battlefield 5. And the reason I know that is because, you know, you just have to look at the crosshairs when you're standing, crouching or prone. And because of that, I actually utilize this quite a lot. Within 10 to 15 meters when I'm running around, it's really a case of spraying somebody at central mass with a hipfire. ADS will of course always be more accurate, but if I'm looking to be a bit more unconventional and move quickly, hipfire shots when you can still carry on moving at speed are definitely a lot better than, you know, aiming down sight and being stuck in one given place. Another thing that sort of pens into accuracy is about hitting central mass, and this is something I brought up previously in the last point, and a lot of people in Battlefield, they really don't have that fixation. You know, they'll shoot at anything, they'll shoot at any given part of the body. If you're aiming for that sort of high central mass chest to neck / head area, you're always going to have a significantly bigger advantage of winning. Headshot multipliers in this game are insane. If you can get a single headshot on your opponent when hitting each other at close range or medium range, then the likelihood is you will win that gun battle due to their depleted health. You know, 1 or 2 shots to the chest combined with a single headshot on most given weapons will always do the trick. And if you can do things like combine that sort of hipfire crosshair hit onto the head and into the chest in central mass, then you're always doing well. And likewise with aiming down sight, if you can slowly kick up your sights towards the head, then you're always going to win those gun battles. They will never be able to out damage you unless they themselves get headshots, which for the average player in Battlefield is pretty damn low. Moving onwards, we've got something I like to call the mobility scene. This is really just about keeping moving on the whole. Like, a lot of people don't really understand this, a lot of people don't do this. I find most people in Battlefield, when they sort of run into engagements with one another, just stand still and sort of aim across a field and kind of hope for the best that one of them's going to hit the other. For me, I just don't stop running. Like, I'm always running, you know. There is no situation in Battlefield, bar a few when I'm sort of trying to, you know, gather where the enemies are around me, or if I'm feeling a little bit vulnerable, where I'm not on my toes, you know. A lot of the gameplay you're seeing here today is just pure mobility. It's about being fast, it's about making sure players can't get a fixation on where you are as an individual or guess where you are as an individual, and more importantly, making it so that, you know, you're running in and behind players who simply have no clue that you're there. Winning engagements is as much about getting the drop on enemies as it is about accuracy, what gun you're using, and anything else. You know, if you're using a pistol and somebody's using the best gun in the game, it won't matter if they can't see where you are or they don't have the drop on you. You know, a lot of the times in these situations, just keeping on your toes, keeping moving, and never slowing down will really let you win more engagements because enemies just won't see you or won't anticipate you coming. Most players in Battlefield kind of work like a Battle Royale game. They have an idea of where the objective is, and they have an approximation of where they think their enemy should be. And you'll see in some of the strings of gameplay today, I'm actually running behind enemies as they're running towards objectives. And because they have that idea in their head, they just don't know that I'm there, and I always win those gun battles because they just don't have a holy chance in hell because they've switched off and they feel safe. Moving on, and this is something a bit more aiming / settings related, something I really despise in Battlefield is stick aiming acceleration. It's something specifically console related, but I'm sure there is some kind of PC equivalent with mouse smoothing. And in Battlefield 4 you may as well have noticed that the movement of your aim reticle was snappy. It was about clicking to an individual location, it snapped left and right very quickly. In Battlefield 5 and 1 it was more slow, it's a bit more of a chunky turn, and you don't really want that, and this is an option you can turn off. I dial mine down to about 20%, and that works really hand in hand with my sensitivity to allow me to snap to enemies in given engagements on both, you know, multiple enemy engagements and just individual ones where I'm moving very quickly. You know, I don't have to slow down, I don't feel sluggish, I feel quick and I feel fast, and that ability to slap left and right to those opponents is really what gives me an advantage in most of these situations. The final thing really is about tricking your opponents. It's really about trying to, when you're stuck in that 10 to 20 to 30 meter engagements, it's about making their lives as hard as humanly possible. And, you know, this is something that is not very well thought of from enemies and not very well thought of from most players. And it's really just about, when you get into an engagement, what can you possibly do that will confuse that opponent the most? Will it be a knee slide? Will it be crouching? Will it be, you know, jumping left? Will it be, you know, if he sees me running to the right, if I slowly snap back and move to the left, will that put his aim off? Because most people when they're aiming at opponents have this sort of idea where they kind of try and lead their shots, and that's the natural thing to do in a first-person shooter. But if you can find ways to offset that as much as you can, whether it's sharp, jagged movements left to the right, or if it's a slide, or if it's a crouch they just simply aren't expecting, provided you maintain your speed and remain quick, most players will struggle to hit you. And, you know, it's stuff like that where I quickly move to the left or I quickly crouch down, where people really just don't have the opportunity to adjust in time for that extra bullet that I have to make the difference. So troops, that's about it from me today in Tactical Brit. Let me know what you want me to cover in Tactical Tuesday in the comment section below. As always folks, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon in the next video.